Stuka Joe here. Today I have my War Game Reviewer shirt. I'm taking a walk around town and we will be taking a look at Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc, a game designed by Hermann Luttmann, developed by Fred Manzo and published by Flying Pig Games. This is a solitaire push-your-luck type of game where you control the American 2nd Ranger Battalion during the assault on Pointe Du Hoc during the D-Day landings in World War II. And we will be taking a look at the examples of play found in the rulebook of the game. So, take it away, Maestro Pancaldi. This is a solitaire game, push your luck style kind of game where the player controls the 2nd Ranger Battalion as it is about to assault the beaches of Normandy in front of Pointe Du Hoc. And you see there's 3 rows of C squares, the 4th row is the beach, and then you have a cliff that Rangers have to negotiate and then get on the cliff top space, and from then on it's a race to find 6 guns that are in the vicinity. Of course, the Germans are throwing lead and trying to prevent this from happening. And the Rangers score points by locating and capturing these guns, the earliest the better. Also by capturing prisoners, and also by reaching this road here that you see in row number 13. Timing in this game is incremental and uncertain. The game starts with the day marker on June 6 and the turn increment marker in the number 1 box. And each day is composed of 18 boxes on the time increment track. However, event cards drawn may increase the time increment by 1 or 2 boxes. The game will end the moment the turn increment marker enters the number 12 box of June the 8th, or if the relief column marker at any time enters the Ranger's relieved box. Whenever any of these 2 things happen, the game ends and we tally victory points. And depending on the number of victory points scored, we may obtain a legendary military victory or a disgraceful performance, or anything in between. What we will be doing is setting up the game and then going through the examples of play that are found in the rulebook, which you can download and, of course, use it to follow along. We start by placing the time increment marker in the number 1 box of the time increment track. We place the day marker in the June 6 space. And we place the first German counterattack marker in the all quiet box. In this game there can be up to 4 German counterattacks, which they go off when the marker reaches that space at the right that says attack launched. And there is an American relief column on the way, and we keep track of where it is. In this track, the relief column track, and the marker starts in the D-Day invasion approach box. There's 12 LCA or landing craft assault units that we place in each one of their starting positions, denoted by the pictures there in the starting row, and we will do that now. The 2nd Ranger Battalion is organized into 3 companies, and from right to left you have Easy Company, which is commanded by Captain Ball. Then you have Dog Company, commanded by Captain Slater, and there will be markers for each one of these commanders, and Fox Company, commanded by Captain Masney. Now we will place the Ranger units You see here a unit from Easy Company with a strength of 10. In this game, when this unit takes a hit, we flip it to its back side. It will show a strength of 9. And then, if it takes another hit, we replace this counter with the 8 strength version of the same counter, which you see there. And there's versions with 8 strength points, 6, 4, and then also 2, and the ones with 2 have a 1 in the back, and if this takes a hit, that unit is eliminated. Now we place the battalion commander and company commander counters beneath their assigned LCAs. For example, Captain Baugh of Easy Company goes beneath LCA 861. Captain Slater is assigned to LCA 860. And Captain Masney of Fox Company is assigned to LCA 883. And the battalion commander, which is Lieutenant Colonel Rudder, goes beneath the support LCA for Easy Company. Now we place the Ranger unit counters and we assign them to each landing craft. The units that have a strength of 10 go to regular landing craft, and the ones that have a strength of 6 are assigned to support landing craft. And we place them now beneath the landing craft. And now we place the 3 supplies markers. There's one for each of the companies, and we place them beneath the support landing crafts of such companies. And now we place a rally point marker behind each one of these stacks. And these rally point markers on their backside denote that the unit has been already activated. So we have deployed the Rangers. Now it's time to deploy the German units. German units consist of units of the HKA regiment. There's also machine gun units, and there's also a flak gun and a command bunker infantry unit. And then here you see the grenadiers. These will come in only as a result of an event. Machine gun and flak units have 2 numbers. The number to the left of the slash is the number that it is used when the unit is issuing any type of fire combat, and the number to the right is the number that is used when the unit is in close combat. And the command bunker infantry is placed in the command bunker space, which is in the cliff top or row number 5. Now we take the 14 HKA regiment units. We will mix them up. We will use this cup to mix them up. And we will randomly place 11 of these in any gun emplacement, building, bunker, and barracks space. And that's, of course, 1 per space. And here we see the units after placement. There's 3 left in the cup. Now we place 1 in each of the spaces that are marked there with the 3 stars. And we've placed all but 1 of the units. The unit that remains does not participate in this game at all, and it is just kept aside. Now we place the machine gun units. There's 8 of them. We place them in a cup, and we place 1 each in each of the 5 machine gun spaces on the board. We can see 4 of those machine gun spaces here. And here we see the 4 units after being placed. The 5th machine gun space is near the road, and that's where we place our 5th machine gun unit. The remaining 3 machine gun units are placed with the grenadiers that will enter the game later. Finally, we place the flak gun in its designated space. Now we place the 20 possible gun location markers. These are mixed and placed face down so we don't know what they are. We place them in any space that shows a star. If the space shows 1 star, 1 marker goes there. In gun emplacements, there's 2 stars per space, so we place 2 markers there. And in the southwestern corner of the map, there's 2 spaces with 3 stars, so we place 3 markers there. And here we see the possible gun location markers placed on the map. Now to finish with the setup, we take out all the incoming fire markers and we place them face down without looking at their backsides. And now we're going to execute Operation Flash Lamp, which is the aerial bombardment in preparation for the Rangers landing. And the way that is recreated in the game is that we roll 1d6 and add that result to 10, and that is the number of incoming fire markers that we will place on the board, a maximum of 2 markers per space. So we roll 1d6. The roll is a 6 plus 10. We place 16 incoming fire markers on the board, again, a maximum of 2 per space. And here we see the incoming markers. We placed 2 on most of these spaces here, 2 with the flak gun, 2 on this machine gun position, as well as this one here in the center, 1 here in this machine gun position, and 1 more here. 2 in the command bunker space. And if we continue back, we'll see more incoming fire markers placed mostly on the gun emplacement spaces. And further back we see 1 that was placed here with this particular machine gun unit. Now the effect of those incoming markers will not be known by the player until the player engages either in close combat with the unit or performs a recon mission. So for now we will place the incoming fire markers beneath the units. The exception are those cliff-top spaces that have 2 incoming fire markers. For those, we have to conduct bomb damage assessment. We will reveal 1 marker, and we apply the indicated result immediately. And if the marker has a critical hit, we also place a firm hold marker on the cliff space. So for instance, here we have 2 incoming fire markers on the leftmost German unit, which is a machine gun unit. We flip the top incoming fire marker, and the result is a miss. Now we take the next unit to the right and we flip the topmost incoming fire marker. The result is also a miss. Now we continue to the right and we flip the topmost incoming fire marker. And the result is a hit with an asterisk. The asterisk means that it is a critical hit. First, we assess the hit on the machine gun unit and we flip it to its back side. And because it is a critical hit during this initial bombardment, it will cause the collapse of the cliff on that sector of the map. And to signify this, we place a firm hold marker on that row that is for the purpose of assessing the situation or the condition of the cliff. So the cliff in that particular column has collapsed and there is a firm hold. That means that the Rangers will have it easy to climb to the cliff through that column. Now we would determine what happens with the incoming fire marker in the command post space. We flip the top incoming fire marker. And the result is 2 hits. So the first hit flips the command bunker to its reduced side, and the second hit eliminates the bunker. And we remove the remaining incoming fire markers because they follow the unit that is in the space. Now, that was also a critical hit, so we place another firm hold marker on that cliff row. So after resolving Operation Flash Lamp, we've been able to collapse the cliff in 2 of the spaces, and 4 of the units in that clifftop space each have 1 incoming fire marker. That would be resolved when our units get into close combat with the German units, or they conduct a recon fire mission. Next, and before normal play, we conduct a pre-game invasion approach procedure. And for that, we will roll the movement dice that we're showing here, and we will roll 4 at once and assign one of each color to one of the 4 units in each of the companies. And there are results that are different from the normal results, and you can find those results here in the player aid card in the pre-game invasion approach table. So following the example on the rulebook, we pick Dog Company to activate during the pre-game invasion phase, and we roll all 4 movement dice. The results are a green no effect draw event card result, the yellow die 1 hit and advance 1 space, the red die advance 2 spaces and we pull a German chit, and the black die is a shaken result. So we decide we want the left side of the company to advance in good order and establish a beachhead, with the supply LCA getting the worst result to bring up the rear. So we assigned the red die to the LCA 860 unit and the yellow die to the LCA 858 unit. And the green die is assigned to LCA 868. And finally, the black die is assigned to the support LCA unit. LCA 860 has been assigned the red die, so it moves 3 spaces and lands the Ranger unit and Slater on the beach. Now the LCA makes a J projector launch attempt. J projectors were rocket-propelled launchers that were mounted in the LCAs for the purpose of shooting a grappling hook and a rope to the top of the cliff for the Rangers then to climb. And in this campaign, they turned out not to be very effective, with the ropes becoming waterlogged on the trip to the beaches, and very few grappling hooks actually were successfully deployed through these launchers. So we roll 2d6 on the J projector launch table. And the result is a 6 no hold. Now, having reached the beach row, which is row 4, we remove the LCA unit. Next, we proceed to the yellow die, which was assigned to LCA 58. Here, the result is 1 hit, so the Ranger unit is flipped to its backside, which now shows a strength of 9. And the LCA with the Rangers is moved 3 spaces. And as you can see, it has not reached the beach yet. The black die was assigned to the support LCA unit, so it receives a shaken marker, and it is moved 1 C space. LCA 868 received the green die, and according to the results of the pre-game invasion approach, the unit moves 1 C space. Here we see after the pre-game invasion approach, there was 1 unit with its company commander that reached the beach. Another unit is nearby in row 3, and there's 2 units in C row number 1, and one of them is shaken. Now we go to the C zone example in page 8. Continuing the example above, Doug Company's support LCA is in the C1 space with a shaken marker, and during our turn we are conducting activations for Doug Company, and we decide to activate this unit. Now, while a unit is in a C zone, it may not consolidate, so we decide to roll first the green die, wanting to gradually bring the unit in with as little risk as possible. So the green die is rolled, and we obtain a no effect draw event card result. So we curse a little, as the unit will not move and we flip the top event card. And it shows a 1 timing increment result. And we adjust the time increment track. Now the marker is in the number 2 box, and notice that the effects of the night will come into play in the number 13 box, and after the 18 box we will start all over again at the number 1 box, but of the following day. That will be June 7th. And having rolled the green die, we place it in the green space, and as stated before, we don't have the option of consolidating, so now we have to roll one of the other colored dice. So we cannot consolidate, we have to press forward. So now we choose the yellow die, and the result is variable hits and advance 2 spaces. But because the unit is in the C1 space, the Ranger unit is hit and flipped to its reduced side. Notice that if the LCA and Ranger unit would have been in the C2 or C3 space, the hit would have been absorbed by the LCA unit. And we would have flipped the LCA unit to its damaged side, but in this case it was taken by the Ranger unit. So now, having already rolled the green and yellow die, we have to choose between the red die or the black die. So we choose to roll the red die, and the result is a stop activation and draw event card. So the LCA must stop in its current space and its activation is over. And in addition, another event card must be drawn and resolved. And then we would move to activate another unit, and that's where that example in the rulebook ends. The movement dice are the heart of this game. Let's take a look at the dice and their possible results. The green die is also the safe die. The yellow die is the regular die. The red die is the risky die, and the black die is the most dangerous die in the game. Let's take a look at each of the dice results, starting with the green or safe die. 2 of the 6 results on the green die show a clock, which means no effect, and draw an event card. The player does not move his unit and draws an event card and applies its effect on the appropriate track, be it the time increment track, German counterattack track, or relief column track. The remaining 4 results show an arrow. The arrow means that the unit will advance a number of spaces equal to the number of squares on top of the arrow. The unit may move either forward or back. Units with a pinned marker, however, cannot move. Let's take a look at the yellow die results. The yellow die shows 1 clock or no effect, draw event card result. There are 4 results where an arrow is shown. Some results have a letter or blast symbol next to the arrow. In this game, when there is more than 1 result shown on a die, always implement the leftmost result first. The letters R and G mean that after advancing the unit, the player draws an event chit and consults the Ranger or German side of the chit respectively, and implements that event, which is summarized in the event chit summary card. The colored blast means that the unit takes just 1 hit, but the hollow blast means that the unit will take a variable number of hits. It can be 1 hit unless the unit is within 2 spaces of a German unit that can muster 1 strength point after modifiers. If the Ranger is within 2 spaces of a German HKA or Grenadier, the number of hits is equal to half the distance, with fractions rounded up, between the Ranger and its rally point. If the unit is within 2 spaces of a German machine gun or flak unit, the number of hits is equal to the number of spaces between the unit and its rally point. So, as you can see, the farther a Ranger unit is from its rally point marker, the higher the number of losses it will sustain if a variable hit result comes into play. The last yellow die result shows a stop sign, which means that the unit ends its activation and cannot roll any more movement dice. If this happens, flip the unit's rally point marker to its activated side. Note that the rally point marker stays where it is. To move the rally point marker to the ranger's space, you must take a consolidate action and forego rolling movement dice in one turn. Now let's take a look at the red or risky die. The red die has 4 results with arrows. 2 of these have also chit event draws, 1 ranger and 1 German chit event, and the other 2 1 hit and 1 variable hit result. There's also a stop activation and draw an event card result where the unit finishes its activation and an event card is drawn. And the last red die result shows a man kneeling. This is a shaken result. Shaken units are more prone to become routed and have reduced effectiveness in close combat and fire combat. Now let's take a look at the results of the black or dangerous die. 3 of its results include advances of 2 or 3 spaces, and there's a possibility of no hits, 1 hit, or a variable number of hits. And the only chit event which is possible is a German event. 1 result is a stop activation random card event result. There is also 1 shaken result, and there is 1 routed result. A routed result will inflict a number of hits equal to the distance in spaces between the unit and its rally point, with a minimum of 1 hit. In addition, the unit will become shaken and will stop its activation. So you can see here the nature of this push your luck game. It lies on deciding whether you will keep on rolling movement dice. Note that the safer dice also yield less spaces in advances, while the more riskier ones result in more advances, of course, at a higher cost in hits. We continue with the previous example. Dog Company's support LCA is in the C1 space with a shaken marker, and during our turn we are conducting activations for Dog Company and we decide to activate this unit. We cannot consolidate in the C zone, so we decide to roll the green die first, wanting to gradually bring the unit in with as little risk as possible. So we roll the die, and we roll a no effect draw event card. We curse a little as the unit will not move, but we flip the top event card, and it shows a 1 timing increment result. We adjust that track accordingly, so the marker is in the number 2 box. Now we must roll another die. We have to press forward. This time we choose the yellow die. And the roll is a variable hits advance 2 result. Because the unit is in the C1 space, the ranger unit is hit and flipped to its 5 strength side. If the LCA would have been in the C2 or C3 space, the LCA itself would have been hit and damaged, but instead the LCA is moved now to the C3 space. We have to keep on rolling, and now we choose the red die. And the result of the red die is a stop activation draw event card result. So the LCA must halt in the current space and its activation is over. And also another event card must be drawn and resolved, and then we move on to activating another unit. And that's the end of this example. Now we continue with Dog Company and this beach zone example. Dog Company's LCA 860 successfully landed its ranger unit and the Slater marker onto the beach 4 space. Its J projector launch attempt, however, was a failure. We rolled a 3. So there is no hold marker in the cliff side area here. So we select the Ranger unit for activation and decide that we don't want to roll a lot of dice before earning the necessary 3 arrows to climb that cliff. We rather take a gamble and get it done with 1 roll and hopefully minimize casualties. So we elect to roll the black die as our first die. And the result is a variable hits advance 2 result. Because the Ranger is on a beach 4 space, the number of hits inflicted is 2. So we change the 10 strength Ranger unit for the 8 strength Ranger unit, and we also decide to save the 2 advances, and so we turn the die 180 degrees to indicate that fact. We cannot consolidate on the beach, so we roll now the red die, and we get a 1-hit advance 1 result. So we flip the Ranger unit to its 7th strength side, but because now this is the 3rd advance result, we can also move the unit into the adjacent cliff top 5 space, even without any hold marker. And now we immediately place the rally point marker into the space with the Ranger unit. And for what we do next, we will see that in the inland zone example coming right up. We continue with Dog Company in this inland zone example. Dog Company's Ranger unit, with a strength of 7, has just suffered severe casualties, and we have already used the black and red dice, so they will not be available. We decide to press forward. Note that we could elect to consolidate because we are now in the inland zone, and we decide to roll the safer green die. The result is 1 hit, advance 1. So we replace the 7 strength Ranger unit with a 6 strength counter, and we move the unit to the adjacent row 6 space. We have 1 die left to roll, the yellow die, but we decide that the unit has taken enough of a beating and we elect to consolidate, and therefore we move the unit's rally point marker up with the unit, and this ends its activation. And we flip the rally point marker to its activated side. In this movement example, a Ranger unit from Fox Company is in the space directly in front of gun emplacement number 1, which has a German HKA unit in it and 2 unrevealed possible gun location markers. We are now rolling for this unit's activation, and we start with the green die. The green die is rolled, and the result is draw event card. So we immediately draw the topmost event card, and the result is an increase in time of 2 on the time increment track. Now the marker is in the number 4 box. Having rolled the green die, our unit did not move, so we decide to roll the yellow die. And the result is variable hits and advance 2. And we look around the map and we see that there's an unpinned German machine gun unit within 2 spaces of the active Ranger unit. So now we look to see where is the unit's rally point marker. And the rally point marker is 2 spaces away in the cliff top 5 row. So that means that the Ranger unit takes now 2 hits. So we substitute the 10th strength Ranger unit counter for 1 with a strength of 8. The Ranger unit needs 2 advances to move into the enemy space because it is a German-occupied, prepared covered terrain space. And the advance 2 result gets the Ranger unit into the space, and it must fight a close combat with the Germans, and if it wins the combat, then we can reveal the 2 hidden possible gun location markers. Now we resolve the close combat. The Ranger unit with a strength of 8 has entered a space with a German unit with a strength of 3. Normally, we would roll 4 combat dice for the Ranger unit, which is half of its 8 strength points. But we see that there is an unpinned Ranger unit with a strength of 6 adjacent to the enemy space on the left and past it in the minefield space. This grants us not only attacker's support of +1 combat die, but also qualifies for the defender flanked bonus of another +1 combat die. So we will roll a total of 6 combat dice. The German unit gets 2 combat dice for its strength points, that is half of 3 rounded up, and another combat die for an adjacent supporting German machine gun unit, and yet another combat die because the German is defending in prepared covered terrain, for a total of 4 defending combat dice. In close combat in this game, any result from 1 to 3 is a miss, a 4 is a morale loss, a 5 is half a hit, and a 6 is a hit. We roll all 6 Ranger combat dice. And the Rangers roll a 1, 2 2s, a 4, and 2 5s. The Germans roll 4 combat dice. A 2, a 3, and 2 6s. The Rangers receive 2 hits, and we substitute the 8 strength point Fox counter with one that shows a strength of 6. The German unit receives 1 hit, and that is for the 2 5s, which each represent half a hit. And the German counter is flipped to its reduced side. Since both units survived the combat, we have to check for morale loss. We rolled 1 4 for the Ranger and none for the Germans. So the German unit loses the combat and must retreat back 1 space south. The Ranger unit remains in the gun emplacement space, and now we immediately flip the 2 possible gun location markers. This reveals an intercepted orders marker, which is placed in the victory point track in the Fortunes of War section, specifically the box for the day it was captured, June 6th. The rubble marker has no effect and it is discarded. And now we decide to consolidate and not roll any more movement dice, so we advance the rally point marker to the Ranger's space and we flip it to its activated side, and that unit's activation is over. In this game, in exchange for any rolled advance results, a unit may instead conduct a special action. The special actions that can be conducted are Recon in Force. At the cost of 1 advance, all incoming fire markers in a space adjacent to the active Ranger unit are revealed. A Ranger unit may spend 1 advance to conduct a grappling attempt. Also, 1 advance may be spent to conduct a hasty fire special action, and this represents an unaimed harassing spray fire against enemy units in an adjacent space. Also, 2 advances may be spent to conduct a redeploy special action, and this transfers any number of strength points into an adjacent column space, as long as there's no German units in that space. Let's take a look at a special action example. Here, a shaken Ranger unit on a beach 4 space rolls the black die as its last die, and rolls a 1 hit and advance 3 result. We apply 1 hit first on the Ranger unit, and now we have 3 advances, and we decide to use 1 advance to conduct a grappling attempt special action. We roll on the grappling attempt table. We roll 2d6, and the result is a 9, a firm hold. We place a firm hold marker on the cliffside area and immediately move the Ranger into the clifftop 5 space for the second advance result, remembering that it cost 1 advance to climb a firm hold. And now we place its rally point marker in the space where it is. With the third advance result, we now decide to conduct a recon enforce special action to reveal the incoming fire marker in the adjacent cliff top space, hoping to help the adjacent ranger unit before it has to scale the cliffs. We flip the incoming fire marker and it is a pinned result, and this uses up all the advances on the black die, and at this point we have completed an exhausted activation. We rolled all 4 dice and did not get a stop activation result. When that happens, we may freely remove the unit's shaken marker and we mark it as activated. Now we proceed to an open fire example. In this example, a German event chit has been drawn, concentrated fire, Fox Company. Each German unit in the same column as a ranger unit from the indicated company issues normal open fire combat immediately, except that machine gun units use the sweeping machine gun fire procedure. And here we see a German machine gun unit in the same column as a ranger unit from Fox Company. The German unit has 5 strength points, therefore it starts with 3 combat dice, that is half rounded up. Since it is 2 spaces away from the ranger unit, this is reduced by 2 dice, 1 per space in the range. So the Germans roll 1 combat die. In open fire, these are the dice results. 1, 2, or 3 is a miss. 4 is a pinned result. 5, half a hit, and a pinned result if conducting support fire or if a machine gun unit or flak gun unit is firing. And finally, a 6 is a hit. The Germans roll 1 combat die. The roll is a 5. This is half a hit, which does not affect the ranger unit. But because a machine gun unit is firing and a 5 was rolled, a pin marker is placed on the ranger unit. Also, since there is a ranger unit in the adjacent column as well, the machine gun will fire on that ranger unit too, due to sweeping machine gun fire. That ranger unit happens to be directly next to the machine gun unit, and therefore the 1 space range will reduce the combat dice from 3 to 2. The roll is a 3 and a 6, which inflicts 1 hit on the ranger unit. There are no other targets in the machine gun's line of sight, so its fire is concluded. There is 1 battalion and 3 company commander counters in the game, and each one provides special command bonuses. There are 5 commander bonuses. A bonus can be used to re-roll a movement die. It can be used to reduce the cost of entering a space with an obstacle by 1 less advance result requirement. It can be used to add 1 combat die to the attached unit when conducting close combat or issuing open fire. It can be used to order an open fire, but between unit activations. And it can be used to remove all shaken and or pinned markers from the attached unit or from any adjacent unit from the same company. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Rudder, also has abilities. He can be attached to any ranger unit and can use a normal company commander's ability on the attached ranger unit's company. Also, there is an additional battalion commander bonus. You may immediately draw and apply a ranger chit, and this can be chosen between unit activations. If the battalion commander is still unused, at the end of the player turn, you may freely move the relief column marker up 1 space. In this example, the unused Masny commander marker is in the All-Guy village space. A ranger unit is in the wood space directly to the left of All-Guy, and it is down to its last, that is 4th, movement die. And we really want to get that unit to push ahead and establish a roadblock. but the die result for that unit is a shaken result. Well, we can't have it all, so we elect to have Masny perform a commander bonus by re-rolling that last die roll. We flip Masny to his use side and re-roll the red die. And the roll is 2 advances and a German chit event. So we move forward the ranger unit and then resolve the event chit pool. We reach into the chit cup and pull a chit and consult the German event. And it reads Ranger Elite, which means that we immediately draw 1 ranger chit instead. And this time we draw Rangers Forward Easy Company. We place the currently active unit marker on the Fox unit on the highway to remind us where we left off. And we conduct the Ranger event. Any one unpinned Ranger unit from Easy Company may immediately move 2 spaces if both spaces are clear, or 1 space if either of the 2 spaces is a movement obstacle space of any kind. So we select this already activated unit from Easy Company, and it will advance into the gun emplacement space. So that costs 2 spaces. And now we would resolve the close combat situation. And we won't show it on the screen. That's where the example ends. And those are the examples of play found in the rulebook of Crowbar. There's also an extended example of play that we have not shown here, and the game includes much more than what has been covered in this video. Flying Pig Games has already published an expansion to the game, Vorwärts. This expansion allows you to play as the Germans against the Rangers. It includes a rule book with the rule changes that allow you to play against the Rangers as the Germans in 2 scenarios, the Wehrmacht strikes back and the night assaults. In addition, it has rules for mini solitaire scenarios where you can play a scenario for Fox Company, or you can play for Dog Company or Easy Company. And in the back of the booklet, you have a summary of the rule changes. There's also a player aid card with the summary of the rule changes, and it is printed on both sides. And it includes 1 counter sheet with the 63 counters comprising this expansion, including the units for GR 726 and GR 914, which are the units that you will be commanding solitaire against the Rangers. So this is Crowbar, the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc, and its expansion Vorwärts, designed by Hermann Luttmann, developed by Fred Manzo, and published by Flying Pig Games. The assault of the Rangers at Pointe Du Hoc was a truly remarkable achievement. I had an opportunity to visit Pointe Du Hoc with my family in May of 2018, and just climbing those cliffs alone is a challenge. Imagine being fired upon by enemy soldiers at the same time. So I hope that you have enjoyed the video and had a sense of the flow of the game and what the game has to offer. This is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching. Take on me, take on me, take me on. I'll be gone in a